It's been revealed households are being charged more than businesses to use the same amount of electricity. Analysis by the Australia Institute shows the two largest energy retailers are charging households 3 times more than businesses per megawatt hour. Energy companies say business prices are cheaper because they're easier to service than homes. The former ACCC boss Alan Fell says it pays for households to shop around.
There is strong evidence that a majority of consumers are not going to get that better price. They're being rewarded, so to speak, I'm being sarcastic, for their loyalty to the business by not getting discounts. The ones who are keener to shop around or who they fear will move, they get a better price.
A Newspoll today shows a majority would back a move to small-scale nuclear reactors. Labor's ruled out support for nuclear, while the coalition has flagged it might support the energy solution. It is yet to formalise its policy, though. Let's bring in the Deputy Liberal Leader Sussan Ley now. Thanks for your time, as always. Are you encouraged by those numbers supporting the prospect of nuclear?
What they tell us, Kieran, is that Australians are up for an adult conversation on this. Unfortunately, the Labor Party is not. But as I travel around the country, young people are very engaged with this issue. And the work that is being led by Ted O'Brien, our shadow energy spokesperson, is canvassing sensible, all of the above options that put at their centre reliability, of course, cost for struggling households and businesses, and reducing emissions, which we've always said we want to do. Labor's got this all wrong.
What do you put it down to with the younger cohort, though? That's a clear majority for younger voters backing this as an option. What do you put that down to?
They're sensible about what we are talking about, which is the all of the above approach. They don't have an inbuilt antagonism towards nuclear. They're looking at what Europe is doing, at what France is doing. They're in touch with young people all over the world. They're increasingly more international in their outlook, and they're sensible, Kieran. They're sensible about this. And unfortunately, the Labor Party is not. We know that the manufacturers, the small businesses, the households that are just seeing energy costs go up and up are not reassured by a government that is just talking the mantra of renewables without understanding the transition.
When you've got the polling that suggests support for the Labor tax changes, the amended stage 3, but no real spike for Labor's primary or bump for Labor's primary, are you encouraged by that? The fact that while the policy change might be welcomed, Labor hasn't seen a boost.
What those polls tell me, Kieran, is that when Australians look at their leadership, they see a Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, that talks about going to concerts. They see a leader in Peter Dutton who talks about the cost of living. Now, that's a clear contrast. I think it's interesting, you know, Jim Chalmers is having a crack here, but unfortunately when he looks at his leader, you get this conversation about concerts and social life, and I know Australians are listening to Peter Dutton when he talks about the cost of living, and he is reflecting their concerns, the concerns that I certainly heard for myself on the polling booths at Dunkley in the last week. It's real, it's hurting, and it's not going away anytime soon under this Labor government.
Does it give you confidence heading into Dunkley?
We'll fight the fight in Dunkley as we are. We won't leave anything on the field, and we have an excellent candidate in Nathan Conroy. I stood next to Nathan. I've done that twice now. I visited some of the pubs in Frankston last week in the evening, saw some of the colourful characters, and I can say people are struggling. They came up to him, they recognised him, they knew that he was a fighter for them, they knew that he had their back, and they knew he actually understood from his own background what their lives were like and what they're facing.
So you think you can get them?
Well, let's see what the Saturday result tells us, Kieran. It's a big call. It's a 6% margin. So all I know is that we will absolutely leave nothing on the field, and Nathan himself is leaving nothing on the field. And the cost of living message is starting to cut through with people who can see a Prime Minister who just doesn't seem to have their back.
Well, he is focusing on cost of living this week. The Senate looking at the tax changes, the lower house looking at the Help to Buy scheme, which essentially the government argues will assist 40,000 Australians into home ownership. Why is the coalition opposed to that?
It was supposed to start, I think, on the 1st of January 2023. Kieran, where is it? It's probably not even going to start in the first half of 2024. You said 40,000 homes. That's over 5 years. And do people really want the government to take an equity stake in their home with all the rules and regulations surrounding that? But remember this, Kieran, this was the policy that Labor put forward when they made their promise about cheaper mortgages going into the election. This was what they said would give us cheaper mortgages. And in fact, you know, we've got $24,000 as the average out-of-pocket increase in people's mortgage payments, 12 interest rate rises. No one's mortgage is cheaper. So if this pathetic policy, a year and a half late, is the only thing that Labor can point to, then I think they really, really have left Australians behind.
But even if it is a small assistance to a few thousand, isn't it better than nothing? Why would the coalition oppose it?
I'll give you one aspect of the policy that makes no sense. For you to actually be eligible, in Sydney, the house price has to be $950,000. I was in the inner west of Sydney in some very ordinary battling neighbourhoods where they told me house prices were $1.2 million. So I think a lot of people who are struggling right here, right now, will be unable to even get in the door with this policy. But Kieran, where are the cheaper mortgages that Labor promised? And if this is so good, why hasn't it already been started? Why isn't it underway? Why can't people actually realise some benefit from it now? It's nowhere near starting. And I think it's pretty appalling of the government to point to policies like this and say they're solving problems that in the real world people know they're not.
Deputy Liberal Leader Sussan Ley, appreciate it.